Rightio, so it's time to put our AC inlet in for our 240 volt. So here goes another hole in the side of the bus. Alrighty, so we're just installing the water filler here. We've drilled the hole out and painted it and let it sit for a little while. Now I've just got some butyl tape to put around the inside of it to act as a bit of an O-ring, a washer, or a gasket I guess. But yeah, now we're just going to stick it in there and screw it down, and then we'll put a bead of sicko around the edge.
Alright, so this week we are going to be installing our water tanks in our plumbing system. We've gotten our tanks from a company called Aqua Armour, and they're an Australian-based company.
Yeah, so I'll just run you through what we've got here. So we've actually got 3 60-litre water tanks for fresh water, so that's going to be 180 litres of fresh water. We've also got a 60-litre grey water tank as well. We've got a Seaflow water pump, which is 11.3 litres per minute, so that's more than enough. And then we've got the hoses and the fittings that we need as well. So yeah, so the way we're going to be setting these up, we're going to interconnect them, the freshwater tanks, so they can fill and drain simultaneously. But yeah, that way it can kind of act as one big water tank, and yeah, it's just a better way to do it in our opinion. There's a couple of different ways you can actually install the tanks themselves. You can either make up a couple of brackets like I have here and bolt them through the floor. Otherwise, if you have some stuff in the way, we have a few things we've installed that we're going to make it hard to do that with one of these tanks. We're going to make up a little bracket to go and bolt under the bus. Well, we'll get into it anyway and yeah, install it. So when you install the fittings, there's 2 ways you can do it. You can either use thread tape or thread sealant. We're going to use thread tape for most of these. And also, because these tanks are going to be bolted up hard against the bus floor underneath, you need to make sure you get the breathers in first, because you won't be able to get them on later. Alrighty, so we've got all the tanks prepped and ready to go. I'll just give you a quick run through of what's happening here. We've got 1-inch pipes connecting between each freshwater tank. That ensures they equalise efficiently. We've also got 1/2-inch breathers on all the tanks as well up the top. So we've got our 3 freshwater tanks there, and we've also got our grey water tank, slightly bigger fittings, but still 1/2-inch breather. I've made up a little packer here for the grey water tank to ensure we get enough fall to it. But yeah, so the grey water tank and one of the freshwater tanks are just going to be nice and simple, just bolting up straight for the floor. 2 of the freshwater tanks, so I've made up a few brackets due to the location to make it a bit easier to mount. But yeah, so we're going to start off by installing the grey water tank, and then we'll move on to the freshwater tanks. So I've got underneath and marked the holes out. Now I'm just drilling them from the top. Alrighty, so we've got some water tank sender probes here. This will tell us the level of our tanks, and they'll be sent up to a little gauge in our bus. You just drill a 22mm hole, and then you tighten the nut, and then the little rubber grommet expands in there and seals it off. But we'll also put some sicko around the outside just to ensure it stays there. But yeah, so these are the biggest we could get. So for these tanks, they have to start about probably 1/3 down from the top. So yeah, pretty simple, but it's definitely worth doing, I think. So it's time to install the rear driver's side water tank. This one will be pretty simple. I've just had to make up a bracket here because it's going to go directly under our gas bottle compartment. So what I've done is I've got some steel angle, and I've drilled 2 holes at the end here, So the bolts will come up either side of the gas box. I've also notched out in the timber where these little bolt heads are going to be sitting, just so it sits up flush against the floor. Yeah, so we'll get this one in now. So for our last tank here, we've actually made up a bracket out of angle. We don't want to bolt this one through the floor because it's going to be in our hallway almost where you're going to see it. So we've decided to make this bracket up that will bolt to the sub chassis underneath. So this will sit over the top like this and bolt to the tank. And then we're going to have high tensile bolts from each side of it bolting into the sub chassis. So yeah, that's just another way to do it. Alrighty, so the 4 tanks are installed. Now we're just going to run the plumbing between them. We've got 1 inch and 1/2 inch food grade hose, and it just involves hose clamping them onto the fittings, and it's as simple as that. So we decided to go with crimp connections for the water pump. If we ever need to take the pump out for any reason in the future, it's a lot easier to do so. It's also way better for fault finding as well. So I'm just going to tape them up nice and firmly so they're out of the weather underneath there, nice and protected. Alright, so I've decided to mount the water pump up underneath the spare tyre so that can kind of protect it from dirt and stones and things like that. But yeah, so I'm just going to get it up there now and we're pretty much all done. Alrighty, so that's a wrap for the water tanks and the plumbing on our Toyota Coaster. The only thing we have left to do is put the 3 breathers up through the floor. We're just waiting on a fitting so we can join the 3 of them together and they can come out at the water filler on the side of the bus. Alrighty, so all of the breathers are hooked up now, up to this water filler. We're just going to fill all the tanks up and see how it goes, and so far there's no leaks, so yeah, happy days. Okay, so it's saying it's already got one in it. 7.5, which is exactly that. Alrighty, so the Savo, we're putting in the water mains connection, which will join into the system after the water pump, so we can plug in at caravan parks and at home and whatever, and then get good pressure. So I've just got to drill a hole in the bus. This will be the last hole we drill in the bus, finally. But yeah, it's kind of a bit difficult, this one, because we've already put the wall in and painted and everything behind it, so we can't really see. So I'm going off old photos and measurements, so hopefully this is not going to hit a cross member if I've measured correctly. But anyway, wish me luck. Alrighty, so it's time to install our hot water heater. Pretty much the last part of our plumbing system, other than the fit off for our tapware. But yeah, so we've got the Duetto Mark II, which is from Aus J Hot Water Solutions. It's an electric hot water heater. It runs off 12 volt and 240 volt, which is super handy, so we can run it when we're off grid off our batteries, or we can plug it in when we're plugged into mains as well. So yeah, so anyway, we're going to show you how we're going to install it, and we'll give you a run through of what the kit comes with as we go. So I've built this little platform up. It's going to sit under the bed, and the hot water heater is going to be installed on top of it. Underneath will be where all our plumbing is going to run for it. But yeah, so the kit comes with these 2 feet, which bolt to the bottom of the system or to the back of it, so you can wall mount it or flat mount it, like we're going to do today. I'm just going to kind of bolt it down like that, for example. And yeah. Alrighty, so I'm just bolting these straight into the unit. One thing to note about this water heater when you're mounting it is the bottom of the heater has to be the bottom. It can't be mounted any other way, otherwise it won't work to its full capacity. So on the front of the unit, you have a light for the 240 volt heating and the 12 volt heating. Here's a temperature gauge for the 240 volt heating only, as well as a switch for the 240 volt. This gauge right here is the temperature gauge for the 12 volt only. And then you have a smaller wire coming out the back of the unit, which you can plug into your own switch for the 12 volt. So it's all screwed down now to the platform. We're just going to go put it under the bed and screw it to the floor. Then we'll start getting into the plumbing. So the one fitting that this unit does come with is a one-way valve for the cold inlet, so that allows water to come through but not back out of the unit. It also has a pressure relief valve on the top as well, which some clear hoses provided, so you can hose clamp that onto there and run straight for the floor. I've also gone out and bought a bunch of other fittings, but I'll show you what they're for once I install them. Alright, so for any plastic connections, I'm using thread tape, and for any brass connections, I'm using lock seal. So the unit's all plumbed up now. I'll just give you a quick run through of what we've done. This flexible hose here is coming straight from the water pump. We've also connected a one-way valve to that underneath the floor here. The next flexible hose is coming straight from the water mains connection. Those two hoses meet up at a T intersection here and straight up to this brass T. Some of the water can go straight into the EvoPEX cold hose and straight down to the bus. The rest will go through this one-way valve into the cold water inlet of the unit, out the hot water outlet, and straight to the hot water EvoPEX hose as well. So they'll both get sent down there, connected to the kitchen and the bathroom. Back on here, there's a pressure relief valve. We've run the clear hose down here beside the water pump hose and straight through the floor so it can drain. So that's pretty much it. So now we're just going to move on to wiring it up, and yeah. There's 3 wires running out of the back of the unit. This is obviously the plug for the 240 volt heating. These thicker wires here are purely to power the heating element for 12 volt. I'm going to actually extend those with 8mm cable to get to the battery, just so there's no voltage drop. And these smaller wires here are actually purely just to run the switch for the unit. The kit comes with a connector. So we'll extend this and run it into this wall here on the other side of this wall inside the kitchen cabinet, so it'll be super convenient to switch the unit on, off and on when we're running 12 volt. But yeah. Alrighty, so that's a wrap for our plumbing episode, I guess.
Yeah, well, next we're going to be moving on to our kitchen and unboxing our fridge, which is really exciting.
Yeah, we're going to get the kitchen cabinets in over the next couple of days, hopefully.
But yeah, we're planning on having the bus done
For the end of the year. Well, November.
November.
That's our deadline now. It's been taking us pretty long. We've seen your comments, guys.
But that's just the reality of building a bus when you actually have no idea what you're doing and you've got to research the whole thing.
We're working full time and then we don't know what the hell we're doing, and we're trying to get it done, but we've got a date in. We've had it for like a year and a half now, this bus, and
the only thing we've had professional help with is the 12 volt and the electrical system, so we're pretty much doing it all by ourselves, which makes it that little extra harder.
Yeah.
So
anyway, hold us accountable, guys. November, this bus was going to be finished, alright?
And if it's not, then we need some help. But yeah.
Alright, well, thanks for watching, guys.
See ya.
Good enough? Oh,